Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Vante, and welcome back to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Films. And today, initially, I was gonna do Adolescence, the very famous and hit show of Netflix that everybody is talking about. And I watched it literally in one night. It was 4 episodes. Each episode is around an hour, and I enjoyed it so much. I was gonna talk about it, but I also watch He's really not that into you. Wait, no. He's just not into you during spring break. So I also really enjoy that movie. So I decided that let's just do the film review first and then the series after, because I do feel like with Adolescence, I do need to prepare a little bit more and to sit on it just so I can get the best commentary and the best reviews, because I think that it is such an important show. So much so that the UK government is implementing to schools and for students to watch it. And I think it's such a beautiful thing because, like I said, it's a very important show and it speaks on a very important issue that not a lot of show has talked about more recently, and it's very realistic too. I feel like Adolescence is really not a film of, well, if you're familiar with that, then you would know sort of like the premise. So basically the brief premise is this teenager who apparently killed somebody, in a girl in his school, and is being charged. And it's not a crime series. It's not a whodunit. It's not a, okay, let's gather up the evidence, let's look for clues, none of that. It is more of the psychology of the kid, and it is more about this red pill community that most people tend to overlook. And I know that red pill communities have been talked about a lot these past few years, but it's not, I would say that it's not mentioned as much in mainstream media. And Adolescence is basically trying to tell a story based on this community and how much it affects not only the individual, it affects every single person around them. And it's just so authentic, it's so raw, it is so realistic, and it's so heartbreaking. And if you haven't watched Adolescence, I highly recommend. I feel like everybody should watch it at least once. I told my parents, so both of my parents are journalists. They are very into shows that are leaning towards more important and crucial events. And I told this to my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. It's literally the talk of the world right now." So, yeah, but for this week, I just wanted to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, because Adolescence is truly, truly heavy, and I feel like I just watched it this week, so I haven't been able to sit on it as much as I want to. So I just wanted to get into something else while I sort of prepare for that. And so He's Just Not That Into You is my pick, because I needed a reminder. I needed to know that, sometimes it's not that deep and he's just really not that into you. And so, yeah, today we're going to talk about the 2009 film directed by Ken Kwabis. Okay, I think I just butchered their name. I'm so sorry. And I saw this around on TikTok a lot because, it's TikTok, and we get a lot of I get a lot of rom-com recommendations, and this was one of that. And what I will say right off the bat was that coming into this film, I have no idea who are the cast. I saw Jennifer Goodwin and I loved her. I used to watch Once Upon a Time. the ABC show, and I absolutely loved her. So I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, that's my girl. And I don't know anything else. And when I tell you the first few minutes of watching this film, I literally had to stop multiple times and yell to the screen, is that Jennifer Aniston? Or like, is that Scarlett Johansson? Is that Bradley Cooper? Is that Ben Affleck? It was so crazy. When I tell you that they rounded up all of the most famous faces in Hollywood back in the early or late 2000, put them all in the same movie, and it's crazy because I really didn't know all of these faces are gonna be there. So it was a very, very pleasant surprise. So as you can imagine, the cast is absolutely stacked. We have Jennifer Goodwin, Justin Long. Also, he was kind of he is so cute in the film. Jennifer Aniston, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Connelly, Bradley Cooper, Scarlett Johansson, and Drew Barrymore. Like a little cameo from Drew Barrymore. Absolutely love that. And we also have Kevin Connolly. And the cast is so crazy. That's what I love about like 2000 movies, because they would have the most insane actor and actresses that I presume weren't as famous as they were now. And obviously when we look back at those movies, we're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're in this movie, you know? So it's a really, really great surprise. So if you haven't watched He's Just Not That Into You, I would highly recommend watching it for yourself. But granted, I do want to point out there is a lot of stereotypes, as in 2000 comedies type of stereotypes that are not like 100% insulting or demeaning, but it's just hinting at, is tiptoeing around that line, you know? So if you're not really into that, then probably don't watch it. But I'm not defending it. It's just, you know, movies back in 2000s, that's just how it is. And yeah, it's just something that I had to sort of talk to myself and be like, okay, well, this is how they make the movies back then. Um, yeah, but there are stereotypes regarding around like queer people, gay men, and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. And like I said, no person of color in this film whatsoever. Not a single, not a single speck of diversity. They couldn't even sprinkle that in. They could not be bothered to sprinkle that in. But again, 2009. It's, you know, a different time. So with that being said, I I actually really enjoyed the film. It has a really good message. But okay, so I'm going to talk about the ending a little bit later, but basically this film, how I see it, is basically the American cousin of Love Actually. And the reason why I say that was because both films have multiple characters and we follow their love stories or whatever, and they're all kind of intertwined in some way. And that is literally He's Just Not That Into You. These two movies basically have the same sort of premise. It's just how they execute it is very different. So similarly, we have a married, well, not married, sorry. Wait, no, we do have America. We have a married couple, which is Jennifer Connelly and Bradley Cooper's character. I don't know why that took me so long to say. And I don't know if I should spoil it or anything. I don't think I should spoil it, but spoiler alert, just like every other episode. So please just pause this, go watch the movie real quick, and come back because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But Bradley Cooper's character cheat on Jennifer Connelly's character with Scarlett Johansson. So similar to how, what's his name? To how, one second, let me search up the name of the cast. So similar to how Alan Rickman's character cheated on Emma Thompson's character in Love Actually, basically. And obviously, it's not great. Cheating is never, never a good thing. And then we also have Jennifer Goodwin, which is basically, I feel like she was sort of the character we follow with the most, and her journey of finding true love with, all of these other men, and then Justin Long. And then we also have a very long term couple, which is Jennifer Aniston and Ben Affleck. But the issue here is that Ben Affleck doesn't believe in marriage. Meanwhile, Jennifer Aniston is like, it's been 7 years. Are you gonna marry me? Like, what? Like, what are you gonna do? And which is, understandable because they've been together for so long. Most couple, and when I say most couple, was what society deem and what is socially acceptable, is that couples normally get married after a specific point of time. So how I see it, if you're not married by the 5th year of your relationship, then something is wrong, at least in society's eye. So Jennifer Aniston's character wants to get married, but Ben Affleck's character is like, I don't believe in that. You know that. So yeah, and then we also have Kevin Connolly, which plays Scarlett Johansson's sort of like friends with benefit type of situation. He's super in love with her, but she's in love or in this affair with Bradley Cooper, so doesn't kind of work out. And so that's all of the characters and their dynamic. And what I will say is that Ben Affleck was my favorite character this entire film, which is telling because I don't know. It's people hate on Ben Affleck and stuff, but when we're talking about acting and stuff, I don't really mind him. It's just I was just surprised that he was like the most decent person ever in the entire film. So imagine this. He, as a person in the film, he's very nice. He was great throughout every single guy. Justin's Long character was sort of like a playboy. He doesn't necessarily believe in something like true love, and he literally told Jennifer oh my god, what was her name? Goodwin, sorry. Told Jennifer Goodwin that you are not the exception, you are the rule. And that's how it always goes in relationship, like romantic relationship. So do not expect anything. He's not that into you, because if he doesn't call you, then he doesn't want to call you. I love that quote so much. It scratches a really satisfying part in my brain. If he doesn't want to call you, if he doesn't call you, he doesn't want to call you. Oh, it was so good. And I feel like that entire conversation between Justin and Jennifer's character was so great. And it's so relatable, because I feel like when people seek out this movie is when they needed a reminder. And that's exactly what I did. I needed to hear those words. I really did, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm low key. I'm low key kind of a delusional person. I know, kind of delusional, but sometimes I find it really hard to differentiate between guys being friendly versus when they are flirting with me. So most of the time, and you can ask my friends about this too, I would interpret it the wrong way. So exactly like Jennifer Goodwin's character, I would be like, oh, he's actually into me if he does this or this. But then I needed somebody like Justin Long to stand in front of me and say, no, he's just being friendly. He does this because he doesn't want to see you again, or he doesn't do this because he doesn't want to do it, and you're not his type, or he doesn't want to see you, or it's not going to go anywhere. I needed that because here's the thing, right? And I talked to my therapist about this too. I feel like most of the time I care too much about what men thinks about me. And it's a very, very bad habit. Why? Because it's so hard, it's so suffocating to constantly be, oh, if he texts me at this hour, maybe he's looking for something else. Or if he doesn't text me the entire day, does it mean that he's not into me? Stuff like that. It is so exhausting. And I'm 19 years old. And I've been acting like this for most of my life. So I find Jennifer's Goodwin character so relatable because she sort of nitpick, not in a bad way. She analyzes everything. She literally calls up people and she say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this to see if he's gonna call me back or whatever." But or like, "Oh, he hasn't called me in like 9 days. What does that mean?" It's so, and I also see people's comment on like, "Oh, she's so annoying" and stuff like that. Like, I get that, but at the same time, it is so relatable. And she is literally my inner monologue when a guy doesn't text me back right away, or when I'm talking to somebody and all of a sudden they just lost interest, and I'm like, is there something wrong with me? And it's always the first thought that something is up with me, with myself, and not other factors. It is so tiring to focus your mind on somebody that you don't even know if they're into you or not. Which is the entire purpose of this film, is that it sort of shows you that sometimes you need to take a hint. And that's just how it is. And Justin was literally like, he hasn't texted you, he hasn't called you in 10 days. Let it go. You need to get a grip. You need to focus on something else, like get a hobby. Like, oh my God. So it's very helpful for me to sort of understand that, because I can't believe that I'm not going to be a teenager, but for the sake of this conversation, I will refer to myself as a teenager. As a teenager in this generation that most people talk through social media and stuff, I tend to get very dependent on the other person and whether or not they can hold a conversation or whether or not they get back to me affects my mood in so many different ways, and it is really not ideal because I have stuff to do. I have school, I have work, I have all of these other stuff that I could be focusing on, I could be working on, but no, instead I'm waiting by my phone to see if this one guy that I've been talking to for like a day, see if he replies to me or not. That's why I feel like it's so important to have a character like Jennifer Goodwin's to showcase that we're not being crazy. As a woman, we're not being insane that we wait for somebody's call. It's the fact that we have expectations and we have certain beliefs and we have certain ideas of how a guy should act. Also, that's not a problem, but I do feel like, at least in my situation, I have all of these expectations. I have all of these sort of way of thinking, like, hey, a guy should act like this, or this. And in reality, not a lot of people can know what you want unless you say it. And a lot of people would also not be able to reciprocate that. And sometimes you just need to accept that. You just need to come to term with the fact that once in a while there will be a guy that you like so much. The conversation is so good. Everything matches up. The chemistry is there. Impeccable time spending together. But at the end of the day, he is not into you. And I know that it's so scary because, like I said, this generation of people, finding a relationship is not the easiest thing to do. That's what I'm gonna say. which is why I seek out this movie so much, because it's so real. It's so real. And obviously the film depicts different dynamic of relationship, but I just really wanted to focus on Jennifer's Goodwin's and Justin Long's relationship, because it started off with Justin Long telling her all of these of like, if a guy wanted to, he will do it. If a guy want to call you, text you, come see you, he will do it, but he doesn't do it. So he really doesn't like you. And so at the end, near the end, Jennifer Goodwin sort of realizes that that's just how it is. And by the end, when Justin Long came over and sort of confessed his love for her, meanwhile, earlier in the film, Jennifer Goodwin thought that he was into her, but he didn't say anything, and he was like, I didn't even ask you out. Why do you think that I was into you? And Jennifer was like, you are a terrible person because you are so pessimistic and you have no hope and you just keep telling people that all of this stuff, and I'm done with that. And so that sort of made him realize that he was indeed in love with her. It's just that he did, because he's a playboy. Sometimes he doesn't register to him that his small acts are considered to be very confusing and mixed signal sort of stuff. And by the end, Jennifer was like, I don't think I want somebody like you, because you have all of these opinions and you have all of these set of views on how women should be and how men should be, and I don't really think I dig that. And Justin was like, no, I can change. I can be that for you. And then they kiss. And Jennifer's like, I'm the exception. I'm not a rule anymore, because Justin's character is literally bending his rules of only being with women for pleasure and for a very short amount of time to want to be something serious with her. And she was like, I'm the exception. And I saw a lot of people on TikTok saying that entire scene just ruins the purpose of the film, because it's supposed to be a reminder, it's supposed to be a slap in the face of how life is really not a dream, and people are disappointed that in the end she really is the exception, even though early in the film Justin Long character was like, there are no exceptions, you are not an exception. So it's very contradictory. But what I will say is this, I feel like the ending, I didn't mind the ending at all. I feel like it ended on a very positive note, even though it's very contradictory. It sort of served as this beacon of hope, almost, to say that, hey, it's actually not a crime to be hopeful. It's not a crime to want to be with somebody that you want to be with. It's not a crime to think that you are an exception. Whether or not you are is up to the other person. Obviously, you can't control that. But it's really not a crime to keep having hope that one day you will find the person that can reciprocate whatever it is that you want. And I think that with that message, the ending is a cool one. It's a good one. I didn't have any problem with it. Obviously, I'm being very positive here. And people are saying, that's not how real life works. And she's not the exception. And I understand that. There are a lot of times where myself included, I thought that I would not be the exception. So, but then I don't know if I am going to be someone's exception or not. That's just how it is. But hear me out. What if, just what if, life is more than being somebody's exception? Life is about having somebody who actually wants to have you, who actually wants you. And I don't know, the need to be somebody special And I want to emphasize on special to be the one that, for example, right? If a guy comes up to you and he has all of his ex and they're all sort of like the same genre of person. For example, all of them like a brand of clothes and you don't like those brand of clothes. You like something else and you dated him. And you're going to be like, "Oh, I'm the exception." Because he's dating somebody who doesn't like, for example, Nikes, even though all of his ex love Nikes. But how do you know that he's just not looking for something? He's not just looking for something different. How do you know that he went out of his comfort zone to seek a new quote unquote experience, and maybe you're just providing that to him and maybe you're not as special as you think? Oh, that sounds so mean. My god. Um what I meant to say was that it's good to think that, okay, it's very good to think that you're special. Obviously, everybody of us, what the freak? Every one of us is unique, is special, and I will 100% never, never, ever go back on my words on that. That is a fact. But this took me so long to understand too, is that if you think of yourself too highly in somebody's life, like I just mentioned, if you think yourself that I'm so special because I don't like Nike and all of his ex does like Nike, I am so afraid that you are going to be hurt. You are going to fall as high as you expected, as your expectation. You're gonna fall as high as your expectation. So, which is very contradictory to what I said earlier. It's really not a crime to think that you are special in somebody's life, but at the same time, you really, at the end of the day, you don't know, right? At the end of the day, if he doesn't tell you that he loves you, if he doesn't text you, if he doesn't call you, then all of the stuff you think or all the stuff you believe or you believe, those are gonna hurt you. And I like the film because it serves, like I said, it serves a really good reminder that sometimes you might just need to take a step back and to reflect on what has happened, to reflect on everything that the guy did, to reflect on the way that you react to it. So let's just look at one of the problems of dating in this generation, right? Is that we tend to be very dependent on the other person, like I mentioned. So by that, I mean that if they don't text you, you go kind of crazy, you go kind of nuts that they didn't text you right away or they ghosted you. And obviously I'm not normalizing this. This is actually a really bad thing to do, to, not text somebody back. But it's just so weird, right? Like, why are we so dependent on that person? Why are we so dependent on a text back? And we get our hopes up, and at the end of the day, they just can't reciprocate that. I feel like I'm talking like Justin Long, and I feel like that's kind of the problem. Excuse me, guys. I'm low key kind of tired, so I will be rambling, and I just realized that none of my rambling makes sense. Sorry, my brain is basically not working. But yeah, I feel like society has made us feel like we're crazy for expecting too much, for hoping too much, and then when we get disappointed, when we get sad about it, we blame ourselves, right? But that's not really how it is, when have we normalized being nonchalant and being just very cold toward one another, if you get what I mean? We normalize not texting, we're normalized ghosting, we're normalized not communicating, which is the biggest thing. So, which is also, I feel like that is also highlighted in the film. Was this is one scene that I remember where Jennifer Goodwin's character went on a date with a guy, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'll call you later," or whatever, and give her his card, and she immediately asked him, "So you gave me your card, but you said you're gonna call me back. So do you expect me to call you because you gave me your card, or are you gonna call me back?" And he was like, "I'll call you back." Okay, like clearly being very dismissive and showing no interest. And she just wanted clarity on that because it is so normalized, the fact that we don't communicate what each other's want. You know? So one of the things I do when I talk to some people, as in like talking stage, whatever, sometimes I am very interested in that person, so I would be like, okay, I want to see where this is going. But then sometimes I'm not as interested, so I would just say straight up that, hey, I'm actually not looking for a relationship right now. So I just wanted to let you know, I don't want to lead you on. And I don't know, I wish that people just do that, you know? And I'm not saying nobody does it, but it's just so normalized for us to abruptly stop talking to each other and, expect to be normal. That's just how it is nowadays, right? Somebody stopped talking to you and you're like, okay, well, he's not interested. Whatever. I don't think it should be whatever. I think that it should be like, what the heck is wrong with the other person? Like, why can't you just send me a text saying you're not interested in anything? I would rather hear that than just, you disappearing. But I guess that's just how dating in this generation is. Yeah. But then I will say that another problem with the film, like I said, it was the dependency on men. And obviously we see this still a lot, and I just don't really love that. And I know that I've been talking too much on like just relationship in general and how male centric a lot of stuff are. This movie I would say is pretty male centric because the ending you could read it another way, as in you would always get the male validation that you want to. And that's not really great because yeah, that's how it is. It's so normalized that we get crazy over not receiving a text because we crave that male validation. We crave that male attention. And obviously, I'm only talking about men in this episode because the movie is all like very heterosexual relationship. So yeah, and I personally I relate on that as somebody who has primarily been talking to men and be in relationship with men. That's something that I relate to. And um yeah, um I just find it so strange. And like I said, I talked about this with my therapist. I find it really unfortunate that I low key sometimes I was like, why? Like, I'm attracted to men. And then sometimes I'm like, some of the stuff that they do, but I'm attracted to them. And this movie sort of like proved me right in some ways that some men are just really bad, just horrible. Like Bradley Cooper's, cheating. You really can't defend that, being a cheater. on your wife who wants a baby, by the way. So it's really not great. And Ben Affleck's character, even though at first I was like very icky about the fact that he doesn't believe in marriage, which one third of my mind was like, okay, I kind of understand that, but then the rest was like, you've been with her for this long, 7 years. Guess what else is 7 years? The amount of time I've listened to BTS. No, it's longer than that. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I was kind of icky about that. But at the end of the day, he proposed to Jennifer Aniston. I'm like, frick yeah, this is the best character of the show. Justin's long character, very playboy-y, very nonchalant. Literally the type of guys in modern day. Literally, in like today. You would see a lot of Justin Longs that would constantly tell you, hey, that guy is not into you. Why? Because I'm a guy. I know. And I feel like people hear that a lot. So, yeah. And, yeah. But that's how it is, right? Men are so, I don't know. Sometimes they do stuff and I'm like, why did you just do that? Why can't you just tell me that you don't like me? Why can't you just make it clear what you want from the start so that I don't lose my mind over it? And I hate the fact that I lose my mind over it because this shows this very male-centric way of thinking that is very anti-feminist. In a way. I feel like I'm reaching, but I'm really not. Hear me out. Because all of my life, I've grew up with people around me saying, you need to do this, do that, so that you get a husband. If you don't know how to cook, how would you find a husband? And I live in a very chauvinistic family, as in, whenever there's a gathering, all the women, all the ladies would be in the kitchen, all the men just sit around and do nothing. And when I tell you that was my very first sort of realization that I need to be more than this. Like, I cannot do this. Like, I can't just be in the kitchen because a male family members tell me to. I do not want that. And that sort of, because I've lived with that, my entire life. All my life. It's just male-centered and everything. And sometimes, like, I have a brother, right? I love my brother, I love my parents, but sometimes I would be sitting and my mom would be like, hey, can you do this? And I'd be like, why can't my brother do it? We're 3 years apart. It's really not that big of a difference. He can just take out the trash. Why do I have to do it? And he does take out the trash. But all I'm saying is when you are exposed to this ideology of being dependent on men, being needed, the feeling of being needed to men, and not because you necessarily want to, it's because you were exposed to it from such a young age, it made me go crazy when I do not get the attention or male validation that I wanted. And I'm admitting it right now because I feel like it's really not a problem that only I have. I feel like as a girl in this generation, we crash out over the smallest thing that men does. And it's a problem. And I'm saying that it's a problem because I am going through this problem. I am part of the problem because I feel like this. Like I mentioned earlier, it is really not wrong. It's not a crime. It's normal if you have certain expectation for what men should do. Everybody have that, right? I have expectation for people who I don't even know. I have expectation that strangers be nice to each other. That's not, if I have expectation for strangers, obviously I would have some for somebody who I am talking to romantically. So, it's really not a crime. It is the system and it's society that makes us feel crazy. Just like Jennifer's Goodwin character. How Justin's long and everybody else sort of makes her feel kind of weird because she was sort of quote unquote obsessing over the guys that she talked to. And I don't know her backstory. Maybe she didn't grow up in a chauvinistic family or system like mine, but yeah, that's just how it is because I have been injected with the idea that I need male attention. So I tend to seek it. And I can't. I'm trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to be better. I really am. I'm in therapy. So that's my count how many times I've already said that I'm in therapy. Like 3 times. But basically, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something really deep, but then I lost my train of thought. Anyway, all I'm saying is we as a collective need to sort of recognize that the problem is really not us. The problem, and maybe it is us. Maybe it is the fact that I expect too much. My friend told me that I have too high of a standard, which I kind of disagree, but whatevs. Maybe it's the fact that, or maybe, just maybe, it's the fact that men are being taught to not give a F, and women are sort of conditioned into giving more of an F, which is never a bad thing. But we are giving an F for people who does not give an F. So I feel like it is a very unfair system, it's a very unfair mindset for us to always feel crazy and to for other people to make it seem like we're crazy. Because I know, myself included, my friends, we all crash out because something a guy did. We all crash out because the guy didn't text us back, and it's like that, you know. It's not a one person problem. It's so relatable. It is so relatable. That's why I watched this movie, to remind myself that, hey, some guys just really don't like you, and that's normal, and you need to move on. You cannot keep dwelling on it. You cannot keep being upset of the very obvious fact that not everybody is going to be in love with you the moment you guys talk. It's just like that. He's really not that into you, and it's really not that deep. And I find it also kind of I do find it kind of helpful, and I know that a lot of people have either a very positive or either very negative opinion about the film, but I just think that it's great that somebody make a film about telling women that, hey, like, maybe you're not crazy, it's just the guy is really not that into you, and that's okay. But like I said, the ending is also kind of, you know, weird and contradicts the theme, because at the end, Jennifer Goodwin gets the guy that she wants anyway, and she is pretty dependent on that. So, yeah, I get it, but again, 2009, guys. I hate the fact that I have to defend that the fact that it's old doesn't make it better, that it's very stereotypical, but that's how it is. I mean, a lot of people love Rush Hour, me included, even though it's very. Some of the jokes are like very offensive and very stereotypical, but I don't know. As an Asian person, yeah. Yeah, I hope that I make sense. I feel like I blacked out the entire duration of this episode. I be saying stuff, guys. So if I don't make sense, if I sound delirious, if I sound like I be speaking and nothing is coming out, like, sense wise, wait, what? If nothing is making sense, then I really apologize. I am reaching the cap of my energy. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and just remember, he's just not that into you. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.